Good morning, everyone. I'm just waiting for more attendees to join us and then we'll make a start. Good morning, everyone. I'm just waiting for all the attendees to join us and then we'll make a start. We'll give it another couple of minutes. Okay, it's 1 minute past, so perhaps we'll make a start now and some people may join as we're going on. I'm Vicky Gough from the British Council and I'm the lead person for modern foreign languages at the British Council, and I'm joined by my colleague Bernadette Clinton. Would you like to introduce yourself, Bernadette?
Hello, I'm Bernadette Clinton. I'm currently the consultant at the Hackney Learning Trust, and I also teach on the primary PGC and BA at Middlesex University.
We're talking this morning about bringing the world into the classroom through international experiences, and particularly focusing on school partnerships. And that's something that's really important today at the moment when we're going through this time when people can't travel or receive visitors in schools. It's now even more difficult to get pupils to have some sort of international experience while they're at school. And we're going to explore some ideas about how that might work in the classroom and support your language teaching in the classroom. So Bernadette, would you like to start sharing the presentation?
Yeah. Okay, can people see that okay? Vicky, can you see that?
Yeah, I can see that, that's fine. So if you'd like to move us on. So the British Council, as well as teaching English all over the world, the British Council believe that people in the UK, particularly young people, need to be able to have access to learn languages, and that learning a language gives them access and understanding of other cultures, and that's really important for them as individuals and for their personal growth and their career chances, but also for the long-term growth and prosperity of the UK. So speaking another language is absolutely crucial, and although from surveys that we've done, we know that 3/4 of the world's population speak English or some English, that there's still quite a lot of people that don't. So we need to master foreign languages ourselves in the UK. We believe that every young person should have international experience as part of their formal and non-formal education to add value to their learning and to boost their aspirations. And by international experience, we mean intercultural encounters with people from other countries. And that might be through travel, or it might be through having a school partnership and having the chance to talk and communicate with young people from another country. But the important thing is that it's about an intercultural connection. So we know that some young people go on trips overseas with their schools, but they may, during that, not ever meet anyone from that country, apart from maybe a waiter or a bus conductor. And we really want to promote the idea of having an intercultural encounter as part of that international experience. At this time, we are concerned that the international opportunities for our young people are decreasing, partly due to social and political context, but also now during the COVID context. And that disproportionately affects disadvantaged young people. And so our challenge is, how can we give pupils an international experience without traveling? And I'd be really interested to hear your experiences of that, if you would like to write into the chat. I forgot to say right at the beginning, there are two ways in which you can communicate with us. One is through the chat function that I can see a number of you are doing already, but there is also a question and answer box on your panel. So if you have a question for Bernadette or I during the course of the presentation, please write it into the question and answer session, and then we'll be able to answer them at the end of the session. And now we're going to hear from Arsene Wenger about why he believes languages are important for us.
This is freely available on the Arsenal Double Club website, but I just think it's quite a powerful statement from him.
Arsene, in your opinion, what's the value of learning or speaking other languages?
The value, first, it opens a lot of possibilities for you individually, because I'm here now managing an English club. If I had not learned English, that would not be possible. So first of all, it opens immense potentialities for you. Secondly, it helps the world to develop in mutual respect, in understanding of each other, in understanding that not only in your country you have the right way to do things, and to open the mind of people is, for me, certainly the most promising aspect of it as well.
Now, Arsenal's Double Club language modules, they use football to encourage language learning amongst young people. What role do you think a club like Arsenal can play in encouraging young people to learn languages? Well, we have a social responsibility, and to develop understanding, and you know, you never, if you learn a language, for example, of another country, you never hate this country. And that tells you a lot about stupid wars or stupid fightings, because you have to get in the way of thinking of the other country, and the way of understanding other people. And I feel if we just fulfill that responsibility, that social responsibility, we have done very well. Arsene, in your opinion, what's the value of learning?
Right, we need to stop him there. Right, let's go back to that. Okay, I like the way he uses the term moral responsibility, and that, as we know, we're not saying you should support Arsenal, of course, but we're just saying that that is one of their themes that they've majored in terms of their community support. Other clubs have taken different areas, but theirs is on languages and promoting language learning. So as I say, that's freely available. I think it's just quite a nice statement, simple statement from him. I think the thing we have to keep returning to, and if you haven't looked at it for a while, do look at what's in our National Curriculum Programme of Study. These are the first two sentences from the programme of study, which covers both Key Stage 2 and Key Stage 3. And I think we just need to remind ourselves of that as we get caught up in that daily lessons and lesson planning, etc., just to keep an idea of that bigger picture. It should be a liberation from insularity and opening to other cultures, and should foster pupils' curiosity. So as I say, if you haven't looked at that lately, do go back to it. That's what gives us, if you like, the legal justification. That's our statutory requirement there. The photo is of a young girl from a primary school in Hackney with her partner there in a Madrid playground, opening her mind, opening her world to something quite different. If we think about what languages do provide and what they can be, why that's so important, the international things, the thing about fostering curiosity, a real audience for your pupils' writing, for example, and their language learning, if they're sending emails or communicating with a partner school, providing authentic resources from a partner school, supporting intercultural understanding, opportunities there to link and visit your school when that's possible, international CPD, and a wider appreciation of languages, that all of those come through languages. This is a photo of a wonderful mariachi band who will come to your school and bring a bit of an extra element there of, they bring the sombreros and they do the singing and the etc. I just wanted to share with you a couple of case studies of schools that we work with in Hackney. This school has got a number of linked schools in both Madrid and Murcia, because it says federation, there's 3 schools. And they look to the British Council to see how that could help them to develop their primary languages. The British Council, as you know, is the national agency for the EU funding Erasmus+. The government hasn't decided yet whether they're going to support Erasmus Plus for schools after Brexit. So if you want to sign a petition to the Parliamentary Petitions Office about this, feel free. Also an Erasmus Key Action 2, where schools can work very closely together in a deep way on different projects, again managed by the British Council. E-twinning space is also a great platform for schools working together. Doesn't involve you having to visit, but does involve you sharing curriculum and ideas, again, organised through the British Council. Gaining the Full International School Award, which gives you that framework to organise and look again at your curriculum, showing where those international and intercultural aspects are in. A lot of you I know already celebrate the European Day of Languages. We have an annual Hispanic Week. We also have a local primary Spanish award. And we also have a new project in Hackney on CLIL, which we're hoping to develop. Just in terms of how Ofsted see this, one of the schools in the Federation has already been inspected under the new Ofsted framework, were found to be outstanding. They did a deep dive into their language provision. And here's some of the quotes. You don't get much information put in the final report, as you realise. Pupils learn to realise how culture can enrich their lives, impressed by the high standard of work, grammatically accurate Spanish, pupils well prepared for secondary school, and the link with a school in Spain to bring the culture of the country to life for older pupils. So important as well, that recognition that schools look for from Ofsted. So these are just some examples of things that they've done, working on during the Hispanic Week, looking at other Spanish-speaking countries. This one's on Bolivia. Looking at their school community, where do the families of these children come from, where their backgrounds, showing that in a very visual way on the world map. And this is some of their pupils on their Key Action 2 project coming to Hackney to do some joint work with them there. On a secondary level as well, schools think about your European Day of Language, international evenings a lot of schools have. Use it as that opportunity to celebrate all the languages in your school community. Invite your feeder primary schools so that it helps that to link that transition, get working together on that. One of these photos is about pupils coming and supporting the primary school pupils in making guacamole. Link with other subjects in your school. In Skinner's, they've been involved in a CLIL program where year 7, one of their Spanish classes over the week has been art through Spanish. So they were making those links with other departments in the school. They've also just got funding to run a Connecting Classrooms Global Learning project, and they've got a link with Tunisia, and they've been working together on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 16, Peace and Justice, and they've gained that funding for reciprocal visits. The visit obviously at the moment hasn't taken place because of the lockdown, but the dates on Connecting Classrooms have been extended. For those of you that are teaching French, either in primary or secondary, those the eligible Francophone countries under the Connecting Classrooms are Algeria, Jordan, Lebanon, Morocco and Tunisia. And there are still some application deadlines for funding going right up to June. I know that the British Council are planning a seminar in Lebanon in June to link up schools that are looking for a partner school in Lebanon. So do contact the Connecting Classrooms website there for more information on that. There will be support for helping you to write an application, and hopefully next year we will be able to have those reciprocal visits taking place. The other thing I think you need to think about is what resources you're using, and we're talking about an internationalist perspective and approach. Do an audit of your resources. Are you just using ones that have a Eurocentric view of the world? Do you use things like, if you're doing stuff on artists, look at people like Frida Kahlo, Wilfredo Lam, Black Cuban artist, Laurente Zúñiga, also a Black Cuban artist. Materials produced by Devon Global Learning Center on Take Mali, Hola Peru, using authentic materials, looking, for example, at the geography objectives of the national curriculum are super for us if you're doing Spanish, because you need to look at contrasting country in Europe and in either North or South America. So obviously if you're doing Spanish, that is an ideal one for us. Looking at your maths curriculum as well, multicultural maths. Just some idea of resources here that I really like. The focus on the Hispanic world rather than Spain, the Hola Peru pack. It's a super pack with wonderful video resources, etc. The French pack on Take Mali, again, is a really super resource, and you can get them from the Global Centre at Devon. They're a complete resource, ideal for Key Stage 2 and Key Stage 3, looking at French geography and global citizenship on the Take Mali. So again, look at that. Are you using resources that promote that internationalist approach? This photo here I really like, because people will look at it and most people know who the short white guy is on the right. That is Pablo Picasso, but not so familiar with this taller black guy on the left, who is Wilfredo Lam, who's a Cuban artist. There he is photographed with Picasso in the 30s. That was in Paris, where he was working with him, a part of the Surrealist movement. He fought on the Republic side in the Spanish Civil War and was sent by the Republic to Paris to work on trying to get support for the Republican side in the war. There's resources there that we've uploaded, and there's lots of stuff that you can find about him. I think, is that over to you then? Right, Vicky, so where to start? So
yes, so over to me. So I think I'm going to talk about where to start and ideas about where you might find a partner. I think you may hear, you know, when you come to a talk like this, you may hear from case studies from schools who have developed their international work to a really high level. But what you need to remember is that they had to start somewhere. Many of the projects that people have put together have taken years and years and years to bear fruit. It's essential that you start quite small and begin with things that are relatively easy to do to make sure you get some quick wins that really excite the pupils and will be able to bring other members of staff on board. So things to think about in advance. Think about, what do you want to get out of a school partnership? What is it for? How is it going to support you in your work? Is it about language learning? And if so, what country would you like your school partnership to be in? So if French is the language you're learning, the partnership doesn't necessarily have to be with France. There are lots of other countries where French is the language spoken. Similarly with Spanish, it doesn't have to be Spain where your partnership is. It could be wider than that. Is it about, do you want a partner that's very similar to you or very different? Is it about exploring similarities and differences? If you're a city school, do you want another city school to be your partner, or do you not mind? Are you interested to have a rural school so you can make a contrast? Is it about the culture of another country? And are there other areas of the curriculum that could get involved? Are there other teachers that you could bring in and help you think about what might be the best kind of school to make a partnership with? So think about what kind of partner you're looking for. Is it a school with similar demographics, contrasting location, as I spoke about before? And then think about what you can offer as a partner school, because it's important that working with a school in another country, that you are partners, and it's not about using them as a resource, but also enabling them to use you as a resource, that it's an equal partnership that can benefit both of you equally. So it's also worth, as a selling point, thinking about what are the things that your school is particularly good at? What are the aspects of your school you're particularly proud of that might be of interest to a partner school in another country? And then think about what kind of activities would you like to work on? In the UK, often schools will want to do something that's very firmly linked to the curriculum, and so isn't something that needs to take place as an extracurricular activity or as a bolt-on. The curriculum is so tight and time is often so short, you need to do something that's going to add value to the curriculum rather than being a bolt-on or an addition to that. And it may be for your partner school, that's the same issue. So you'll need to work together to work out what are things you can do that are of common interest and meaningful to both. The second bullet point, are you considering visits? Can you go back one, Bernadette? Are you considering visits? At the moment, obviously, you won't be considering visits, but it might be something that you want to do in the future. And it's worth knowing that there are programs that, like our international school exchange program that's on hold at the moment, but we anticipate will be starting up once people are able to travel again. That program could fund schools in England to almost 100% for pupil exchanges. So, and that's to any school in the world. So it's worth thinking, would we like to consider teacher and pupil visits as part of our work in the future? As I said earlier, the important thing is to start small. So it might be letter, email exchanges and whatever, and then move on to bigger projects. And there's a link here that gives you lots of simple ideas for starting out. And in the chat, I've shared some British Council resources. All of those resources there include sections on things that you can do with a partner school. So they're things that you can use to bring the world into your classroom in your own school, but then you can use them with a partner school to share your reactions to particular activities or pieces of work. The next thing to think about is how are you going to communicate, and how will you manage if your partner school doesn't have good internet access? And also you need to be thinking about things like, what are the times of day that are good for us to communicate? What language will we use? And all of these sorts of issues. And it's good if you can develop the partnership so other members of staff are involved in both partner schools, so it doesn't rely on just one or two teachers carrying the whole exchange. Another piece of advice would be to make sure that the senior leadership team are involved, because they're involved or informed at least and positive about the partnership, because they are the ones who can release resources that can help you develop your partnership further. So how can I find a partner school? There are several ways that you can do it, and this is particularly aimed at UK schools, although some of these things are open to a wider range of schools. So the eTwinning website is open to schools right across the EU, and still including the UK at the moment. So you can go onto that eTwinning site to find a partner in Europe, to see lots of different projects that are already running that you could join, or you could invite someone to join a project that you're interested in. And I know through seeing the names on the chat that some people in the chat are already involved in eTwinning. And if you wanted to write your experiences of using the eTwinning site, that would be really helpful for some of the others, I'm sure. The second link on there is for the British Council Partner Finding Tool. And this will help you find a partner school in a country beyond Europe, and it's open to any school in the world to log on to see if there's any school already on the partner finding site that you would like to partner with. And if not, you can put up your school details and explain what kind of partner you are looking for. And if you're going to do that, I would really recommend that you bear in mind some of the things I was talking about earlier about what can you offer, what are you looking for, and what are the key aspects to your school that might be of interest to a partner school in another country. And the third thing, particularly for schools in the UK, this is for schools in the UK only, if you're looking for a partner school in sub-Saharan Africa or in Asia, you may wish to, or in South Asia, you could write an email to schools@britishcouncil.org to ask for their help for that. The Connecting Classrooms programme for global learning is particularly looking at projects around the Sustainable Development Goals. So if that's the kind of project you're interested in, that might be the way to do it. And then, of course, you should think about making your own link. You may be part of an area or a town that has twinning links with somewhere overseas, and that may be a good route for you to find a partner. If you're a primary school, you may find that your secondary school has a number of links, and you might be able to become part of that, feeding into the primary schools that feed into your partner school. And then it's worth looking into your wider school community. Do you have teachers or parents or pupils who've come from other countries and have links? That might be a really good way of starting off a school partnership. And if you host a language assistant, they may have links with the school or university where they were before. I'd be really interested to hear from you in the chat about how you found your school partner if you have one. And finally, here's something about resources which you might use to bring the world into your classroom. The first thing is for schools in the UK, you might like to employ a language assistant. Language assistants come from 19 different countries and can support language teaching in your school. And being a young native speaker can also bring a really great cultural dimension to your school as well. Secondly, we have a range of different resources on the British Council website for schools to bring the world into your classroom. And many of those have a section in them about work with a partner school that you'll be able to use. And finally, and I haven't put the correct link in there, I'm afraid, a really interesting way of bringing the world into your classroom might be to create a virtual tour for your students. And Joe Dale, who you can find at Joe Dale on YouTube, has done a step-by-step guide on how to create a virtual tour and the different apps you'll need to be able to do it on the website. Bernadette, did you have anything that you wanted to add to what do you have anything you wanted to add about what I had said about making your own link? Have schools in Hackney, how have they made the links that they've got?
Yeah, because I had already had a link with Madrid, so I've been able to provide schools there. In the past where I've worked, we had a strong town twinning relationship with both France and Germany. And so we use that very much, but I think those are not so strong now as they used to be. when there were advisors in most local authorities. The wider school community, I think, is really important because so many of us have people in our community, students in our schools with links to many other parts of the world, and that's a really nice way as well of involving the community and involving the parents as well.
So any questions or comments that people would like to ask? Questions you'd like to ask or comments that you would like to make? There is one question, Bernadette, I don't know if you can see it. I'm not in a position to be able to answer it, but
yeah,
you be able to.
Yeah, I just thought that when I said it, that I hadn't put that up. You go to, just put in Parliament petitions and it comes up there. It's live at the moment. And it's something that obviously we're trying to get enough signatures so that it can be discussed in Parliament, because as I say, our government hasn't yet decided whether they are going to support the Erasmus school programme. I think they seem minded to support the university programme, but they haven't decided on the school programme. So it would be a good way to let them know that we can, that there are people that really want to do that. I think a lot of people, teachers and pupils, have benefited greatly from the Erasmus programmes over the last few years.
And we have a question, will there be a recording of this session? There will be. The Language Show Live is making recordings of all of the sessions, and they'll be up on the Language Show website. And I think because you registered for this, you will be sent the link automatically. I think that's what will happen. Any other questions or comments about international experience or school partnerships?
Yeah, is there anything else in the chat, Vicky?
People are saying thank you for the links, and hoping to find partnerships to organise pen pal projects with. How many schools in the UK have these kinds of projects? British Council has worked out that we think about 1/3 of UK schools are involved in some kind of project with the British Council. More primary schools than secondary schools. I think as secondary schools start to find curriculum time gets really tight, and it's much more difficult for teachers and students to be involved in international projects. That's been my experience. And also because secondary schools tend to work in very discrete subject areas, where primary schools can be much more cross-curricular and cover a whole range of different themes. Another question is, have you found it easy to maintain enthusiasm and momentum for pupils in partnerships? Would you like to answer that one,
Yeah.
Bernadette?
Yes, it has been so motivating. You can imagine it if you're a child. A lot of our schools do Skype links. They have emails which are obviously protected and go through the teacher, but having that real contact with a real person who's the same age as you, who speaks your language, who's got some of the same interests as you, is so amazingly motivating. And the point that Vicky made as well, look out for when the international exchange are back up and running, hopefully next year, hopefully, when actually taking pupils to meet pupils of the same age, spend some time in school with them, doing activities together, that has been amazingly inspiring and motivating to them. I just think it is extremely a great way of bringing that language alive as well.
And someone has asked about financial support, and we've spoken a bit about the International School Exchanges programme, which we're expecting to work again in England. We are not sure about the Erasmus programme or any homegrown alternative to that, which may develop and offer financial support for school partnerships, but it is possible to manage school partnerships via the twinning platform, for example, that you know, don't need financial support, a bit of resource time from the school which can be put into that.
There's another question about immigrants or refugees with settled status who are qualified teachers. There is an organisation which is called NARIC, N-A-R-I-C. I can't quite remember what it stands for, but they will look at your qualifications from another country, match them with the requirements in the UK system, and they can give you qualified teacher status here. That's been a great route over the last few years while we've been in the EU for EU teachers, because then they're just recognised and they're given qualified teacher status. But from other countries as well, if you go through that organisation, just find them online, NARIC, and get involved with them and get your qualifications recognised.
But it's important to know that in the UK, the main languages taught are French, German and Spanish. A small number of schools teach Chinese, Mandarin Chinese, an even smaller number teach Arabic, and then any languages beyond that would have not a huge number of schools teaching them. So language teaching in the UK is quite limited to a small number of languages, I'd say.
Thank you for saying what NARIC stands for. Thanks. Yeah, and it does take a while. Yeah, I know that. Yeah.
Is there a chance for community schools to be involved in the partnership with other schools? I'm not sure, Bernadette. I mean, I don't know whether community schools can join e-twinning, can they? Do you know?
I think so, yeah. Do you mean by that the supplementary school
Yes.
sector? Yeah, I believe that they can. What we're trying to promote is much closer links between the supplementary schools and the mainstream schools. And that would be really worth you trying to explore that in order, because then you can get access to other things as well. And it was really highlighted this year with the GCSE results and the need for centre assessment, where if the community schools, the supplementary schools, were not well known to the maintained schools, there was sometimes difficulty with getting a centre assessed grade. So it's really something that is well worth pursuing.
And the British Council and ASCL put together a sheet for secondary school heads about recommending ways in which they might be able to, they should think about working with supplementary schools, and that was sent to all ASCL members who, you know, secondary school head teachers. So I'll send you that, Fatima, to have a look at and maybe use it to contact some local schools near you. Any final questions or comments? We've got about 4 minutes left.
The there's a comment about why there's not more Arabic or Mandarin being taught in schools. There has been, as you know, a very big Mandarin support program which has been financed quite largely. So that is a growing area, and there are more teachers being trained as Mandarin teachers, although a lot of native speakers obviously are used, and the same in Arabic. There are other schools which, for example, there's quite a lot of schools that are teaching modern Hebrew as well, and schools are looking at to diversify. A lot of schools in London also teach Turkish. So, you know, I wouldn't be put off. It would be, if you've got one language, which is a native language, a lot in secondary schools, they quite often say it's quite useful for people to have two languages. That makes them more, if you like, employable, if you like.
Then we've got a couple of questions about using Zoom and so on. The first one is about, are there any problems with child protection doing links via Zoom, Skype, etc.? I mean, one answer to that is some schools use e-twinning and connect via e-twinning because that's a completely safe site which pupils on both sides can use. But Bernadette, do you have any advice about child protection and those virtual links, and particularly using things like Zoom?
When it first came out, there were some issues with it, because what happened is that they moved very quickly during the lockdown, and that's why I think they became the most popular one that people used. At first, there were some issues about security, because it turned out that some people could join other people. There was a famous example, wasn't there, of somebody joining a cabinet meeting, for example. But that was before. They've now put in place a lot more security, and they, with passwords, etc., stopping, you can put the thing about stopping people entering and make sure it's somebody that you know, etc. So, I mean, a way obviously do it is not to have it on video. You could do it with pupils talking, but not having video link. As I say, some of our schools use Skype, some other schools don't like Skype. But we think if that's a secure area where you're working just with one partner school with a class that you know, so some schools are doing that.
Has that answered your questions about the Zoom and the child protection, the people that ask those questions?
I know that the other like Google Meet and things are developing more slowly, and they're talking about bringing out breakout rooms and things which Zoom already has. So I imagine after a while there won't be much difference between any of them. Some, like my own authority, has gone for Google Meet because they think that's more secure, but yeah. Okay.
And somebody's asked, how can we find out about other schools that offer Mandarin or Japanese and other languages and do not have enough students to run their courses? I think a good way of contacting quite large numbers of schools is the Facebook group, MFL, Secondary MFL Matters. I think if you posted in there to say, do you offer Mandarin, Japanese, and don't have enough students, I imagine you might be looking to make up a cohort so you do have enough to teach. I would have thought that might be a good way to find schools. What would you say, Bernadette?
Yes, yeah, definitely. Or in terms of Japanese, I think that's very supported by the Japanese embassy. So their education department, so they would know where the Japanese schools are. Or
Japan Foundation as well is another good link for Japanese.
Yeah, that's right.
And actually for Mandarin, a good contact would be the IOE UCL Confucius Centre. So the Confucius Centre for Schools, which has got good contacts with schools doing Mandarin. Someone's asking about Hindi. I don't know about Hindi. Do you know, Bernadette?
I couldn't direct to any schools. I know there are Hindi supplementary schools, which I'm sure you could find out through the National Centre for Supplementary Education.
Yes, so National Centre for Supplementary Education. If you Google that, I'm sure they might be able to help you. And then somebody's commented, to increase pupils' interest in a foreign language, one way to start might be running after school or lunch clubs. And if numbers grow, you might be able to progress to offer it as a curriculum subject. And our experience, British Council works with the Qatar Foundation International to promote the teaching of Arabic across the UK. And we've certainly found in a number of schools that that's been a successful way to start pupils' interest by running some starter taster sessions as a lunchtime club with to get pupils interested and more excited about it. And then by showing that there are numbers, being able to introduce it into the curriculum. And if any of your schools are interested in Arabic in particular, then do be in contact with me, because I can talk to you about how we might be able to support your school in that. And somebody again said, is the session being recorded? It is being recorded by the Language Show Live and will be put on the website, but I think you receive a link because you've attended this session. Right, just going to check there's nothing else in the question and answer, then we're going to have to finish, I'm afraid. Okay, all right. I'll give you my my email is Vicky, VICKY .Gough, GOUGH @britishcouncil.org. Okay, thank you so much for attending our session. I hope you found it useful, and I really hope that as many of you as possible can help bring the world into your pupils' classrooms. Okay, thank you.
Right, thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Okay.